Greetings and salutations, you fine furry folk out there, and welcome to another somewhat deplorable installment of this Disinformed After Dark. I'm Shane.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
Limited pause this time.
Well, I'm not pouring one out for him. He just didn't want to be here, so...
To the family of podcaster John, our
Good
humblest
night,
condolences.
Prince, I guess.
That's my favorite bit. We've got like 3 TikToks that are just you saying that. It's my favorite.
Yes. Good night, sweet Prince Albert.
There you go.
May you rest in penis.
Ramen.
R.I.P. and penis.
R.I.P.P. in penis?
R.I.P.P. and PP.
Wait, are we within the first 2 minutes? How long have we been doing this?
We got to be monetized to be demonetized.
Who am I? Where am I?
What year is it?
Is
Nixon,
still president?
etc.
Yes,
Thank you.
Indeed.
All right.
For those of you who are blissfully ignorant and completely unfamiliar and cockaverse, Heil come slingers, but we are 3/4 of the hosts of the increasingly popular podcast, the Disinformed Podcast, which flees your preferred provider app every single marvelous Monday morning. You can check us out there. We like to talk about random esoteric nonsense and lie about it. It's very entertaining. And speaking of lies or flies floating around in the fur, Michael has been talking about the fantastic furry fandom over the course of several weeks, and now we need to spend a little time with a crazy reprobate named Monica, apparently.
So it's not that one. It's actually Squee Rat.
Squee!
Yes.
Squee!
So Monica, Monica was a separate conversation about all the ills that occurred during Conference 8.
Okay.
This one is a manifesto, the Third Reich manifesto, as I like to call it.
Trigger warning.
This sordid little business is what a lot of other people call it.
I mean, it is 2022. I'm not going to follow this line of logic. I'm going to leave that alone.
So essentially, this person, Squee Rat, founded the Burned Furs, which were a group of furries that were strictly against a lot of the erotica that was flowing in and out of the furry fandom. Pun included. Intended.
Or excluded.
Pun included.
Well, if
or
they
unended.
had their way, it would be excluded. And so leading up to the foundation, she had posted this manifesto that I wanted to read in its entirety because it gets really, really just defamatory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for all of you who know, Michael's most certainly the cold reader of this group. So get yourselves ready.
I was half tempted to just send it to you to see what you would do.
Oh, I'm happy for a night off.
All right, that's fair. That's fine by me. I remember when being a pervert was a bad thing.
Don't we
If
all?
you were warped, you tried to hide it. And good for you if you did. If you were going to polish your rod to autopsy photos or bugger a Shetland pony,
Hey.
you did it in the... Nay. You did it in the privacy of your own sick, sad home. No one else, especially not me, had to know. And that was great. The best part was, if you decided to crawl out on the roof and inform the neighborhood via midnight megaphone that being urinated on got you hot, you would be told in no uncertain terms how very diseased you were.
In defense of those people, it gets everybody hot. It's a warm fluid.
Yeah, it's body temperature. So, let's see here.
It's hotter than the coffee I'm
Yes.
drinking presently. I'll guarantee that.
Most people I know don't have too much trouble distinguishing between a lifestyle choice and a warning sign
We discuss it at my church all the time.
Ugh.
during our book reading. God, what was it called?
Our book
Bible study.
reading.
Jeez.
So
Our
I think
bi-weekly
you mean Prayer
Bible study.
Circle, which is actually just Gossip Central.
I'm officially, Michael, you have stumbled into brilliance here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to refer to religions henceforth and forever as book clubs. Oh, apparently they're attending their weekly book club again. How delightful.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Have you heard I'm not to digress here.
No,
I'm
by all
sorry,
means.
but it's important for me to. Have you heard the Patton Oswalt bit about folks who try to use their faith as a way of influencing government decisions, things like this?
No.
It's hilarious. You should look it up. But he does a stance about like, I'm a comic lover. I'm an aficionado. I'm not going to go and demand in front of the White House that they give me a Green Lantern ring because I saw it in a book somewhere. I realize that it is a fantastical construct and I can't get that. And I would be insane if I were to be sitting out there demanding, I want a Green Lantern ring. I saw it in a book. It says it's true. So go look it up. It's a delightful bit, friends. I'm sure you would appreciate it.
Sounds fantastic.
He'll do a better job of it than I do, I assure you.
Yep. In many parts of the world, the idea of making love to Andy Panda is still regarded as somewhat misguided. Most parts, that is, except furry fandom. I don't know what the hell happened here. Live and let live is an excellent tree-hugging philosophy, but it doesn't do much when the ones you refuse to kill are dragging you down with them. If you like animal-based stories, cartoons, or art, you're a furry. And like it or not, furry means pervert. This didn't come out of nowhere either.
Yeah, I'll tell you where it did.
But why? To me and a lot of other people, furry means, or simply means, a fondness for human-animal combinations in art, movies, books, whatever.
Called interspecies erotica.
Not if she has anything to say about it. If you're biased towards Redwall novels, have a soft spot for anime cat girls, or can't drag yourself away from The Secret of Nim, chances are excellent that you're at least slightly fur inclined.
Who's wanking it to Mrs. Frisbee? Come on.
Who isn't? That's pretty cool by me. The simple definition is probably what started furry fandom in the first place. But you would not, all caps, not believe some of the baggage the term furry has taken on. The most obvious one so far would be suspicions of bestiality.
Go figure.
Yeah, huh? This wouldn't be a problem if the furs that did it weren't so damn proud of it. For those of you that were out sick that day in sex ed class, don't fuck your pets.
Cluffhanger.
There's a word I'm not going to say, but it starts with an R. Fido is 100% bad idea. You're making us all look bad. God damn it. Do you know what all the other fandoms, Trekkies, X-Files, Lovecrafters call furries? Skunk fuckers. And we have these morons to thank for it. Zoophiles is a cute way of saying I violate animals for sexual gratification.
Who doesn't?
Period. Who doesn't?
What else do you do it for? Don't do it to tell your friends.
Of course not.
Doesn't
Especially
fit great
this
on
person.
It doesn't fit great on a greeting card. Like,
Hey, I violate animals for sexual
greetings from ass.
It's not okay. It was never okay. And declaring yourself furry doesn't give you the right to insist that any level of bestiality is part of the furry experience. Getting your rocks off on lower orders of the animal kingdom is bad enough without your partner being licensed by Disney.
What about the higher orders?
As long as it isn't licensed by Disney, then you're fine.
I mean, as long as it's a great ape, I think that should be fine. That's almost close to home.
Yeah. Yes, indeedy. As we descend just a step deeper into hell, we stumble across the path of the Plushophilia. That's shorthand for I find this Nico doll intensely erotic.
If it's Uhura, I mean, how do you not?
Amen. These are the people who use FAO Schwartz, which, as an aside, I didn't know what that was. It's apparently
it's defunct. Yeah. If you remember
Same
the
as Toy Store.
Yeah.
Yes, if you saw it in Big, where they do the whole sequence on the giant piano.
That was the main reference that I found for it when I looked it up.
It was
look at
fun
me.
when it existed.
Yeah.
You went?
Yeah, I've been there.
Look at you being out and traveling the world and doing stuff.
Nice. These are the people who use FAO Schwartz as a singles bar. I don't know their words.
No,
I
it's
don't-
too loud in there. You wouldn't want that.
So come here
Suddenly,
often.
Tom Hanks sliding across the big piano takes on a whole different connotation.
So what brings you here? You like the stuffies or the plushies?
Oh, I'm gonna bang a gong and get it on.
I don't know who decided that this was a valid excuse for a sex life, but he probably still lives in his mother's basement. You don't have to earn a degree in psychology to figure out that You don't have to earn a degree in psychology to figure out how thickly laden with sexual dysfunction the very concept of plushophilia is. How badly was your id stomped on to get you to the point where you would consider wanking a children's toy? I'm not sure I want to know, but I do, with asterisks, and all caps, I do know plushophiles have latched onto furriness like a swamp leech.
Indeed, and they can also show you on the doll where they touched it.
Oh, God.
Uh,
When people call furries perverts, this is the kind of crap they're talking about. Sigh. Moving on. Down, down, down we go. Oh, look. The seventh level of furry hell. Furry Lifestylers. Glee. We got us some self-righteous little pokers down here. You see, just drawing cartoon animals or enjoying Watership Down doesn't make you furry. No, you're not good enough. You're not furry if it's just a hobby. If you don't think you're the astrally projected soul of a wolf trapped in a human body, or you don't answer the phone with a meow, you're not a furry. Yep. Don't you feel terribly inferior now? Christ on a fire engine, what some people will try and force on you. As an aside, I found that Christ on a fire engine.
It's a very interesting picture.
I've always found the fact that 90% of lifestylers consider themselves misplaced foxes, wolves, dragons, lions, tigers, or something equally powerful and noble, open to a special brand of mockery. This is where I was saying in the episode, Courtney, that we would eventually cover predators like the tigers, the pumas, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah.
I mean,
and you never did.
No, I'm doing it right here. That was the idea.
there are some people who consider themselves to be raccoons or badgers
Possum.
or a
Weasels,
possum.
or the
Yes.
intelligent weasel, the skill tear. Just saying. Let's see. Christ on the fire engine. Amazing coincidence how fantastically superior they all were in their animal lives, isn't it? Maybe if I occasionally came across a lifestyler who claimed to be a reborn cockroach, I wouldn't be so cynical.
Dung beetle.
I'm sure Freud would have a great detailed explanation as to why people build up
Mhm.
fantasy worlds for themselves like this, but I'm content to call these types crackpots. Slightly less obstinate, but equally butt talk chafing.
Butt talk, huh?
Butt talk chafing.
Got your Forrest Gump on tonight. Well done.
Mhm.
Never
Are
been
the-
on that side of TikTok.
Butt talk chafing. Are the
It's pronounced de butt.
are the random groups who try their damnness to super glue a witch's brew of lycanthropy, shamanism. I said lycanthropy right, but I couldn't get shamanism.
You were congratulating yourselves for lycanthropy.
I
Lycanthropy, depending upon your particular preferences or pronunciation or proper pronunciation. If I can continue to be alliterative.
well, there you go.
Oh my
Try
God.
their damnness to super glue a witch's brew of lycanthropy, shamanism, and veganism to a once enjoyable subculture. Don't misunderstand me. Werewolves are fun,
Too late.
right?
Werewolves are fun.
Role playing a werewolf, knock yourself out. Drawing
will.
werewolves, email me some pointers. I can't do them to save my life. Claiming to be a werewolf, Ooh, woo, no.
was gonna
Seek
say.
help.
Notice his
Seek-
pelt. What's this? Ooh, woo.
Notice this full moon. What's this? Ooh, woo. Claiming to be a werewolf, seek help. You're not a werewolf. There are no werewolves. Anyone who claims to turn into a giant dog at the whim of a celestial body should be mercilessly ostracized and laughed at with maximum cruelty.
It's not at the whim of the astral bodies. It's whenever I take off my shirt and pants to get in the shower.
Wolf, where?
Here.
Then there's the matter, not manner. There's the matter of spirit animals. I don't have one. I don't want one. I don't need one. And according to some, that disqualifies me as a furry. Gee, didn't realize I had to realign my entire belief system to ensure acceptance into an already decrepit fan base. Once again, the question of personal tastes intruding on a once meaningful practice comes to mind. You'll find a good 1,000 spastics claiming the protection of the fox, but I've yet to hear a furry fan thank the earwig spirit for his wisdom. Yes, I'm taunting you. Cope. And yes, there's a special breed of nut boys out there who insist a major component of furriness is the practicing of veganism. For those of you who don't live in California, that's the total shunning of all animal products. No eggs, no leather, no beef, no fish, no clubbing baby seals until their skulls are soft and dough-like.
Okay, who's advocating for that?
I mean, I'm down for a good seal clubbing. What better way to
Michael!
release some steam?
We
Oh
were
my
talking. We
God.
were trying to speak out against bestiality here, friend.
Not with that attitude. For
Not in this
reasons-
economy.
Not in this economy. A baby seal nowadays, psh, unnecessary.
Astronomical prices.
Mhm. For reasons beyond my comprehension, this sort of self-denial is supposed to put you more in touch with your furriness. God knows how. I've never seen a pride of lions abandon a mule carcass to chase down a fleeing herd of garden burgers. Animals have a strange way of mutilating other animals. That's nature. Welcome to it. And there's nothing more furry and natural than gnawing on some flesh, kids.
That is not a very Christian ethos you're espousing there, my friend.
Oh,
Squee.
burn furs are against Christian furs. Just to reiterate that. Human beings are omnivorous. God damn it.
Omnivorous?
Human beings are omnivorous. And that means meat.
I mean, it can.
Amongst
it
other
means
things?
everything.
No,
but
it means meat.
that's
If
apparently
you don't
where you come from.
if you don't believe me, fetch yourself a mirror and smile. See those pointy things? Canines. So enough with the tofu and bean sprouts. Your spirit animals are laughing at you.
I am a werewolf, so I mean that.
And finally, we confront the long-held notion that furries secretly wish they were animals. I'm sure there are some that do, but they're in the minority. Trust me, I'm rather fond of being a Homo sapien. I've grown quite attached to the idea of opposable thumbs, full color vision, and the dawning of self-awareness. Space travel, Chinese food, swing dancing. The perks ain't bad either. No, I'm holding my own on this end of the evolutionary ladder. Thank you. Most furries are.
And yet you've adopted the moniker of the rat.
Squee Rat. But for the poor schmucks who want nothing more than to transform into an elk or bear or something equally ridiculous, a stay in an institution, not a fandom, is in order. Phew. I think I'm done for now. Any survivors, Alpha Team?
Oh, you're done.
Eh? If you've actually read this far, I must say I'm impressed. If I made you mad, good. If you agree with me, even better. Either way, I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think.
So this is the 1990s iteration of a troll.
Someone that got a little too upset over how the fandom was going.
And also someone who is apparently incredibly insensitive to Native American cultures.
Yeah,
True.
Two-Spirit is a whole thing that deals with Native American culture. And that's actually something I've wanted to read into, because I just find the idea of gender constructs and how it's more than just two, and how other cultures like adapt that or look at gender in a different way than how my culture perceives it. So yeah.
Also discussing spirit animals, etc. The word common
that's fair.
derivatives
Yeah.
from somebody else's culture that's being co-opted here and then disparaged on top of it, which fuck you. Do your research, friend.
Yeah.
Oh, she does it though. She's seen it all. She knows what's going on. She's been in the fandom. She knows how it started. It didn't start lewd like it. It started with good, clean Christian, but not actually Christian values.
So standing aside from the fact that I would feel that this is satirical, just from the face of it, I feel like if this is an actual individual who is decrying these things, why do you want to belong so hard?
Right.
Like, why do you feel the need to be included in everything? Like, sometimes you're not invited to the party. I hate to break it to you. And there are those of us, the new breed, the hipster, if you will, who don't care to be invited to the party. I didn't want to go in the first place. So the more people that despise me and disparage me and do things I find distasteful personally, it's great. I can stay home. I don't have to encounter them.
Mm-hmm. Especially nowadays with how decentralized the furry fandom is, you can find a dozen websites that cater to your specific interest.
I was just referring to people who go around without masks and breathe out their mouths, but I mean,
that's also a very fair point.
Get vaccinated, kids. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would really love to hear this author's stance on Harry Potter adults and Patronuses.
Oh, that would
I feel
be
like
a good
she
point.
should not be a fan.
Harry Potter was a thing because I think Goblet of Fire was published in 99, right?
Your guess is as good as mine. I am not a biographer of the Rowling, unfortunately.
Fair enough. But at the very least, the first Harry Potter came out in the early 90s. So,
allow me to do some research and talk amongst yourselves. We do have the internet available to us at all times.
We do. But in that case, then the idea, especially if it was the Goblet of Fire, then the idea of Patronuses would have already been established. But then again, that also could have just been an entirely different fandom. And so people weren't necessarily crossing because there aren't a lot of anthropomorphic animals in Harry Potter.
And furthermore, it was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was the first book, Michael.
Yeah, I said the Goblet of Fire, the fourth one.
But why would you be worried about whether the fourth book was around? Just purely for the Patronuses?
Well, I was thinking of the book that was published like the closest to the time that this was written.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
But Philosopher's Stone came out in 1997.
Oh.
So it has been around for a hot minute, but let's see.
So then I guess I was off on that. So then
Goblet of Fire came out
like
2000.
Oh,
July 8th of 2000.
So I wasn't that off. I remember being in elementary school, to date myself, and seeing someone read the book and saying, hey, it just came out, the fourth book. I'm like, I don't know what Harry Potter is, but okay.
I was graduated from high school.
I won't say where I was.
In utero.
No, I'm a little older than that, but
if only.
Yeah. So then in that case, if it came out in 2000, then that means at least Prisoner of Azkaban came out before that. So then you definitely have the animus or something like that. The people that can turn into animals. Yeah. Thank you. So there could have been some streams crossing with those two fandoms. Who knows?
You never cross the streams. It would be bad.
Depending on the fandom.
Unless you're trying to, send Gozer back to an alternate dimension of their choosing.
Well, if it gets Squee back to that alternate dimension,
Squee me. Yes.
Squee undies.
I
Call back.
indeed. They still have that very wonderful trunk undie that everybody was so fond of back in the day.
But yeah, I just wanted to read that. And then I didn't write anything about it, but she actually wrote a second almost manifesto where she establishes the burned furs. And that rant was actually taken from a parody or a satire called A Modest Proposal. So her second one where she established the burned furs was called A Modest Proposal. So when you said that you weren't sure if she was, being a troll, I would say that she wasn't, but it's very funny that her second thing that establishes the burned furs was named after a massive satire.
Yeah, I was going to say named after one of the most famed, if not the most famed satirical work in history.
Mm-hmm.
How delightful.
So, yeah, there you go.
Well, that was as pleasant as any other bigoted and insensitive, intolerant discussion we've ever encountered. So,
yikes.
Hooray for that.
Michael, with this topic, since you have 54 sources and you've spent a lot of time on this, like, where do you land as far as like the ethics of the furry fandom at this point?
Like, what do you mean by the ethics? As in whether it's ethical to be a furry?
More or less, but also in the sense of like a lot of the stuff that she's calling out, like most people would say, yeah, that's not a good thing, but it also doesn't sound like that is the majority of the fandom, at least based on what you told us.
Yeah, this wasn't a source that I quoted, but it was something that I had skimmed over. There was a like a survey or something that was spread around one of the furry websites that asked like, what is your file, what is your fetish, or something to that effect. And out of several hundred furries that were surveyed, I can't remember the exact numbers, 2% like identified as a Plushophilia, 2% identified as a zoophile. And it's one of those things where if that's like, you can't really control what gets you off. Like, that's the opinion that I take. But that said, you can't control what gets you off, but you can definitely control the factors related in getting you off. If you're just sitting in your own home fantasizing about Shetland ponies, I guess. But if you're going out and finding Shetland ponies to mount, then that might be more of an issue, to quote from her paper manifesto.
But you're going Patton Oswalt on me again. Like, yeah, you can control what gets you off. If this rag smells like chloroform, then disregard.
No. But that I mean, that's kind of like the ethics. It's a very gray thing.
Here's the other thing, though. We've talked about in infinite number of times, ad nauseum or ad infinitum, if you will, on this show in particular. Rule 37 is most certainly a thing. You can literally fetishize anything you like, and it has been and will be.
It's Rule 34.
Fuck off. I'm a Kevin Smith fan, not an internet trope. Okay, so
that's okay. I think that the rules of the internet is still my like lowest down.
Well, then what's Rule 37?
Oh, I don't remember.
Wipe them out, all of them.
Yes. Kill them.
All right. In any event, fine, but yes, you can obviously objectify anything that you're so inclined. So any fandom has some contingent of it that fetishizes it to a certain degree.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that necessarily bemoans the fandom being something worthwhile or substantive or appreciable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, especially when they constitute not even a minority, but like a super minority, like very, very small.
I mean, furthermore, ask how female musicians feel about how they were treated over the past 50 years. And so you'll have a very interesting conversation about what is or is not objectified and how substantive you are able to be when attempting to control your own career and how you are marketed or manifested. And terrible thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's it, I guess. I don't know how to end this. I don't know what I'm doing.
You execute
Shane,
a
save
small
me.
bow.
Well, I just think I think as a group of people, the show overall, like, we're not into the idea of kink shaming, but more in the sense of like, if it's safe and consensual,
Yes.
do what you will. And I think because you've spent so much time reading about a lot of kinks, apparently, that you have the most to say on the topic. So it was really interesting. I didn't know anything about furries other than like the negative stereotypes before your episode. So
yeah, and it's one of those fandoms that only really has, and I mentioned that at the beginning of the episode, of the first episode, that I couldn't think of a single positive stereotype about them because they've been reviled since the get-go, since they were considered a fandom. And it was one of those things like, I know I'm not going to change anyone's opinions or thoughts or anything like that, but like, I just wanted to put my own perspective into this because it's always interesting to see, like, why are they reviled so much? Is it because just people don't understand that people like to dress up in a fursuit? Most of the time it's not sexual. They just enjoy doing that. It's the same thing as people cosplaying as their favorite anime characters, or just dressing up for Halloween, or just any of that thing. Like, they derive some sort of enjoyment from it. Why are people knocking them for it? Is it because they just don't understand? That sort of thing. Or like, when I was writing this whole series, and especially the first episode when I was talking about cartoons and how a lot of American cartoons are supposed to be catered towards children, there's censorship that prevents other things like that. One of the drivers, the Trump driver that I always talk shit about on this podcast / vlog, whatever we call the After Darks, whenever someone would turn on the TV and at work and just leave it on Cartoon Network or something like that, he would always, and he comes in whenever he would come in for work, he would be like, oh, who put on the kids stuff? Like, it could be something like Rick and Morty or South Park or something like that. And he'd be like, oh, who put on the kiddie shit? And it's like, well, are you just assuming that all cartoons are for small children? Because that's most certainly not the case. And that's something that I learned, that was a stereotype that came from the American cartoon, like TV codes and all those other things because of the censorship. And that was just a really interesting thing to learn about. Like, I didn't really ever think that cartoons were just for children, in part because, I mean, I grew up with a Toonami and a lot of anime that would be shown late at night on Cartoon Network. And so I knew that a lot of the stuff, it wasn't necessarily like mature or sexual in nature, but it most certainly wasn't made for kids. Like, when you have people dying left and right, or when you have blood, or, stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't show a 5-year-old this.
Well, I mean, some of the things we do subject children to have not been screened very thoroughly.
That is also a fair point. And
I mean, Bambi's horrifying.
Existentially so, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
well, not to derail your point, but to kind of dovetail
fine.
off of it, but one of the things that I think you can openly espouse and advocate for those who are part of the furry fandom, since it's a phrase that you enjoy utilizing so frequently, there's a degree of escapism to that. And I think there's a lot of that we employ for any facet of our imagination, or things that we do just to gratify ourselves in one way, shape, or form. You want to experience something empirically that is not just your own. I mean, traveling or travel logs. Like, why would you want to read about somebody else taking a trip and look at the photographs? It's like, I might not necessarily be able to afford that. I will never know what it feels like to be a horse outside of the confines of the bedroom. And so...
We get it. You're well hung, man.
That was not what I was referring to. I was talking about the saddle and the carrots. Thank you. But
Nay.
obviously there's something that we want to experience, and it's very liberating and fun, and can be very zesty or entertaining, and just for any number of reasons. Some of us lead lives that are pretty horrific, and there's a tie to trauma that's related to that as well. So the escapism is that, for people who just read to help transcend the horrible situation that they find themselves in on the daily, there's a disassociative sort of thing about putting on a costume as well that will probably help. And some of that can be psychologically tied to other things that are negative, but there are positive aspects of that as well. So yeah, to paint anything that broadly with the same brush is kind of irresponsible. And it's just another one of those narrow-minded sort of things that we encounter constantly in our culture in particular.
Mm-hmm. And instead of thinking more critically on it, because you don't either have the time or you don't care enough to try and think critically on it, you just take what other people say, narrow-minded or not, as fact.
Well, and also, a large portion of this is that you do not have to understand everything empirically yourself.
True.
Like, some folks are just going to have peccadillos and preferences that you will never grasp. And it's the same thing that people that get outraged by is like, oh, well, you can't be attracted to your own gender, or you can't say that you have multiple genders or things like this. It's like, well, just because you don't understand that, because you are not possessed of a proclivity that is similar or have some sort of different leaning, you don't dictate the world. There are many different strokes out there. So if something doesn't line up with you, that's not reason to cast aspersions or to disparage it or ostracize it. It's just understand and have compassion. And for me, to your point, Michael, those are the times when you ask questions, because I find that compelling. Like, I find it interesting. As we've talked about previously, there's a member of my, general functional group here that is asexual, and the whole concept completely fascinated me. And not to say that it's a concept, but meaning I don't know what this feels like. I don't know what may or may not stimulate somebody. Do you have any sexual feelings at all? And like, those are really interesting conversations for me, because I don't know those things myself.
Yeah.
So, just same general principle, but those that flee from these things because it is different or other, and then feel the need to try to chase it with fire. It's very Cro-Magnon thinking to my thoughts, but
yeah,
I digress.
No, I think you summarized our thoughts on the matter pretty succinctly. Yeah.
Courtney's a woman. I'm not going to speak for her ever.
Fair enough.
Wait, am I allowed to talk?
Always.
You have permission.
There's a really great tweet about how why would you listen to women? They're just a rib or whatever. And so sometimes Jonah will just be like, why are you talking, rib? And I think it's hilarious, because obviously we don't subscribe to those beliefs anymore. But no, I think I agree with Michael. I think you summed that up really well. And I think overall, for us to be talking about that, I think is really important. And I am really glad that we had this conversation.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I feel like also it's easier to understand, just trying to espouse a devil's advocate stance, but for some folks, it's kind of easier to understand why opposite genders are attracted to one another, because there's something decidedly different in many instances. And it is those differences that are alluring and intriguing, because I don't understand the rationale. So explain it to me. And, your typical stereotypes of femininity or masculinity and what those things entail. And so the flip side to that coin, though, is if someone feels both of those things innately, or feels a plethora of things innately, like, that's also intriguing. That's not something to flee from. And it's I think a broader insecurity that manifests for the individuals that do that. No.
Oh, yeah.
Family is only man and a woman having children together. It's like, oh, okay. And again, dictated by a book. So where's my Green Lantern ring? But
Right.
Yeah, I find that very silly, because there are plenty of male and female couples who are horrendous to one another and intolerant and create a very toxic environment for children. And that's documented. And there are many same-sex couples that have a wonderful and healthy environment that they raise children in. And it's like, so you can't say any one thing is always proven to be this every single time. Ian Malcolm has taught us that that is not how chaos works. Yeah, so these things, I'm always just flabbergasted by that sort of weird, narrow-minded and regimented perspective exists, and I will never understand it. I can appreciate, you know, those that do it based on faith, and that's a whole different conversation, and we've had it many times ourselves. But yeah, I prefer to make my own opinions on things as opposed to being spoon-fed them. Unless it's, you know, vaccines, and then I'm one of those liberal idiots. Let's shoot me up, daddy. Give me all the germs.
Did you hear the story about the person from India that I think has currently 12 booster shots?
No, I did not.
No.
Yeah,
That sounds like too many.
It's not Baskin Robbins. You don't get different flavors.
31 flavors. I'm gonna get them all.
Did you?
Yeah, gotta catch them all.
Every strain of COVID, I want all of them in my body.
You can't top a Digimon.
Only with its consent.
Very true. Very true.
You were saying, I'm sorry, please.
No,
person with 12. What prompted them to get?
Yeah, what's the rationale there?
I didn't read too much into it. That was just one of those things. There was a man from India that I don't know how, but he has 12 booster shots, and you know what? Power to him.
I guess it's like doing cocaine at a bar. Apparently, it was like, well, that didn't kick quite the way I wanted it to. Let's try another. All right. Night is young.
I feel superhuman now. I got the superhuman serum. I'm now Captain America. Here we go.
Give me shots till I drop. Well, as per usual, we, like moths fluttering up against a light fixture, bounced all over the place with this particular installment, and it was delightful for every single solitary second, and I won't hear otherwise from any of you out there.
That's my life. I mean, I'm neurodivergent, so there you go.
There, you know, that term is also just not very inclusive for me.
Well, you're a neurotypical, so
Wow, bold assumption, Michael.
That's fair. I don't. Wow.
Blatant ableism now. Good.
Oh man, look at him. He
Way
can
to
cross his
cap
eyes.
it off.
I can also move both of my eyebrows.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
Independently of one another, even.
Whoa.
I can also move my ears, but that would require me taking my headphones off.
This has gone so far off the rails.
Usually does. Anywho, if you're still watching, our sincerest apologies. You know, hopefully this has been as entertaining for you, Dr. Michael, as it has been for the rest of us. Our love and greetings out there to Jess and Steph and Melissa in about 10 minutes when I'm screening this. And all you other lovely folks who are our loyal listeners and constant readers, as it were, to crib from King. But of course, if you're enjoying what you are hearing on our lovely little show here, there's something that Michael can instruct you on.
Smash the like button, ring that bell,
Yawn like Courtney.
leave a comment, engage, just engage.
Yes.
Yeah,
make like
an editor.
Make like the Enterprise and engage.
Engage me, daddy.
You did that yourself.
Yeah.
Matrimonial motherfucker. Quite literally, you are a motherfucker. It's delightful.
There's only one MILF in my eyes.
But not in your
quote
bedroom.
me on that.
Yipes. Anywho, we love you. We care for you all. Please check us out. There's a link tree down below here in the comments. You can find all our socials and you can follow us there. Also, new episodes of our podcast flee every lovely Monday or every mommy Monday, depending on your proclivities.
You killed her.
Courtney's down. The
COVID
clown
couldn't.
is down.
Oh no.
But yes, please, lactated ringers running and all that
God.
stuff. But you can
No.
find new episodes of the podcast whenever you'd like. It's delightful, and please go subscribe there too. Subscribe everywhere. Just show us all the love and adoration that we so richly deserve for all of our mammary chat.
Good Lord.
Human milk ice cream. Anywho, I'm gonna kill this thing before it spreads. Which I
Please.
should have done 20 minutes ago. I'm
And
sorry.
me.
Yes, but for the Disinformed After Dark this week, I am in fact Mother's Milk Kenton Eldorado.
I am Peter Greer,
Spastic Pinot Greer, if you will.
Algernon Greer, and Robert Greer. I almost forgot the actual name.
And let's not forget your most important handle, motherfucker.
And I'm just Jean Grey Ghost.
Indeed.
And zippity zoop, we're out of here.
Oh, mommy.